Our guest for this hour is already seated and he's been here before, but today we're looking at NTSA on road safety. Dr. Duncan Kibogong is the Deputy Director of Road Safety Programs at the National Transport
Bless you.
Association. Sorry, I just lost my voice there. And coming back into it. So, karibu sana, and welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room once again.
Yes.
Dr. Duncan Kibogong, just good stuff happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as we're here to look at, NTSA and what's happening on the roads, coming off of the festive season, some of the things that we saw. Good to get that update with you. So, karibu sana to the Situation Room this morning.
Thank you so much, Andu and the rest of the team here. Dennis and City, it's good to be back here, and as you said that of course NTSA, one of our roles is to work towards improving road safety in Kenya.
Absolutely,
not just alone, but we work with many partners. Actually, we are more or less like a coordinator of a number of government agencies and government agencies to ensure that road safety in Kenya keeps on improving as we go along.
Okay.
Yes, so that is part and parcel of our work. And one of the important things at the current is that schools are opening.
Yes.
We are now doing Thursday. Some schools open right from Monday. To get some still are opening. Even the colleges are coming out of the festive season of December. And one of the things we always urge is that we need to have the younger generation, the younger people, go to school safely at all time. And that's why one of the reasons we are here is to urge Kenyan drivers and generally all the road users to ensure that at any one point they take safety as a personal responsibility, in as much as the government is doing what they are doing.
Let me give you a cup of tea this morning.
Oh, yes.
And our cup of tea is the Proverb. CT, will you welcome Dr. Kibogong with the Proverb today?
Okay. Yes, we begin this year with Proverbs from the 28th most populous country in the world, which also happens to be the 7th most populous country in Africa. Which country is this?
You said the 7th.
I know it's a bit of an ambush.
Yeah.
So okay. So let me make it simpler for you. All right? Okay. It's a country where in the year 1999 there was a census, but the census was never announced. Which country is this?
Could that be Somalia?
Close.
Census was done and it was
done, but it wasn't announced. It was never made public.
You said close to Somalia.
It's so close you'd be amazed. They even share a coastline of sorts.
Don't tell me it's Kenya.
Don't tell me.
I will not tell you because you have told me. Yes. Fanikio huzaa fanikio. That is the proverb of the day.
Fanikio huzaa fanikio.
Yes.
Success breeds success.
Spot on. Spot on.
Yes.
Success does breed success.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So this is interesting because a lot of people traveled over the holiday.
Yes.
Coming into the festive season and then starting into the new year.
Yes.
And this is coming off of a time where NTSA was not on the roads, right? Yes. The green vehicles that we saw at some point then were removed and said, okay, well, we're going to take that off the roads, and then but then we did see the calls for safety start to pick up again, and we see that more and more during the festive period. But from what you've said in your introduction this morning is that regardless of the period, the promotion of safety on the roads is something that NTSA has picked up on as as an integrating body between several government departments, institutions.
Yes.
So just give us an update of what's happening, and then why did we see in certain parts also that NTSA at least promoting that safety on roads outside of Nairobi and in different parts of the country over this December season? Yes,
thank you so much. As you said that we are the lead agency on matters road safety, and our role, even as stated in the NTSA Act and related regulations, is that we coordinate all actors on matters road safety. To be more specific on what you asked around December, is that traditionally there's some times of the year and even times of the week, maybe such times of the year where we've noted that there's a high number of road traffic crashes across the country, and therefore various reasons why that is happening. And that's why during December, this particular December, which has just ended, and spilling over into the January, is that we've noted a high number of crashes, just like it has been happening in the past. The reason being is that there's a lot of travel out of the cities, or even within the cities. There are a number of behavioral factors which have been associated with this particular season, which promotes, or rather put it the other way around, which seems to increase the number of crashes. We see a lot of festivities, and some of these festivities come with some certain behaviors which have been known to increase. We call them risk factors. Drink driving, people going with speed, people traveling for a long period of time, from them. So that is why when it comes to December, and indeed actually all across, because that's one of the things we'd want to make it all throughout, is that we're working with the National Police Service, and even as we speak currently is ongoing, National Police Service to do what you call joint enforcement of the law across major highways to improve safety. How that happens is that we work with the National Police because we have our own advantages over them, but they are the law enforcers, so we work with them. And you may not be seeing much of the green vehicles because we don't have those particular green vehicles currently, but we do have, of course, a number of vehicles which are on the road. And as I said before, working with the National Police Service and focusing on what you call the major risk factors which have been associated with and those are things like drink driving, speeding. In fact, we are talking up to 40% of major crashes have been associated with speeding. Issues to do with ensuring that people comply with the relevant regulation, including issues with roadworthiness of the vehicle, working on some things like ensuring that the vehicle is operating as per where it's supposed to be required. Because one of the things we've noticed is that during festive season, people want to make a kill. They want to make a lot of money. And you'll find some vehicle which is not supposed to be operating, say in Kisi, for example, beginning to operate. The danger with that is that you're operating in an area you are not familiar with, and at times, of course, outside the law, because PSV vehicles are supposed to operate on some particular. But we are not just focusing on PSVs alone. We also focus on private vehicles, me and your vehicle and myself, and at times, probably once in a while, you probably get stopped so that you ensure that you're also safe. And school vehicles, currently there's a lot of back and, going back to school. And there are a number of vehicles, both using the school vehicles, but at times also using the PSV vehicles and other vehicles, even private vehicles, and working, of course, with the Boda. So those are some of the things we are talking about, because we want to ensure that over time we have safety on the road. As a matter of fact, I think I need to bring to the attention of your viewers is that the President of the Republic of Kenya, April last year, did launch what they call the National Road Safety Action Plan, which is Kenya's blueprint to work towards reducing fatalities by 50% by the year 2030. But even then, if we can even do that one within a shorter period of time, probably under 1 year, then that would be fantastic. Okay. So some of those actually have programs which you'd want to work, and the media does play a big role, and that's why when we get this opportunity, we really jump in to ensure that we promote safety for all Kenyans.
Okay, let's look at some actual things that happened, on the road, and whether it is NTSA's fault or not, we're going to blame NTSA. Okay, so from the 20th of December, the desire for Kenyans to go to a different destination, combined with very many vehicles, spawned the mother of all traffic jams. That was anywhere from Kimende all the way to Nakuru.
Correct.
And it was traffic for hours, and we're not talking about 5 or 6 hours. We're talking about 24 to 48 hours of traffic. What would have been the reason for that? Everybody traveling at the same time, poor road furniture and infrastructure, not enough in terms of coordination between NTSA and the police, like you said, who work together. What was the cause of that, and should it be something that should be expected every December 20th to 24th?
Yes, indeed, yes, you're right that indeed during December and that particular period you mentioned, there was a lot of clogging of the roads, and that happens because of a number of factors. One is, you've said rightly put, is that many people would want to travel, and they travel more or less, and that period probably 4 or 5 days into the Christmas and thereafter, is that you'll find people wanting to rush out of town to go to the rural areas, something which is an habit of Kenyans, which is okay because the second part is that, of course, as we'll always say, that the infrastructure is not enough, and I think that's one of the things the government is working on. And there's been all this discussion going on. I don't know how far it is because it doesn't fall under our docket of expanding those particular roads whereby the traffic has been known to be quite high. And Nakuru-Nairobi Highway is one of the areas which the government is seriously considering expanding over time. And I think you must have seen a lot of, and probably that is a question you need to ask the road agencies, who will probably get you a timeline of how that's supposed to be done.
We hope.
But on another note is that much of this clogging and traffic jams on those particular roads you've mentioned is out of how we behave on the road. Yes, and we've always said that majority of the problems you have even in matters road safety is because of how we, myself and yourself and indeed other Kenyans behave on a road. You'll find, for example, and this is something which is quite common on those particular roads, and indeed even some of the smaller roads here in Nairobi, is that everyone thinks that by not, you better drive slowly than coming to a complete standstill and that kind of thing. And we're seeing people every time, whenever there's slowing of traffic, then someone else wants to be clever, then we put it that way, and wants to overtake and overlap. And then they go into some ditch somewhere, or they now clock completely. Then the incoming traffic, you block completely. Now you are stuck forever. The question I always ask, and this is one important, in as much as government is supposed to be there to control, I think some things people need to be more of, this common sense. Because if you know that if you block this road, the incoming traffic, you block that particular road, then you are not going to go anywhere. So where is government supposed to do in that particular case? And people, surprise, these are people who are adults, majority actually, 90%, actually 100% of drivers are adults. It's not the first time they've been in such a problem. I'm sure majority of them have been, and they know the problem, what it is. They have license to drive, and by the time you have a driving license, you know how to behave on the road, that you drive on the left unless it's clear for you to overtake, and overlapping is illegal. So these are some of the things we always want to tell Kenyans, that it is not proper to just go in the road. And I think this is something which we'll keep on telling. But as I said, it's a combination of factors. Of course, one of the things you need to agree is that, and this is even what you saw the IG and the police mentioned over that period of time, is that they really deployed. There was a lot of deployment of the police, and subsequently, I think they were for 2 days, the third day, fourth day, all the way into this particular year, the traffic jam along Nakuru-Nairobi Highway really did improve. But initial problem was purely caused by how we behave on the road.
Let me ask a question.
Yes, it is.
If we talk about traffic, Nairobi provides a good case for studying.
Yes.
In Nairobi, if there are signs that it will rain, and say it rained the day before, around 2 o'clock, you will come across traffic jams.
Correct.
It's like people have left the office and they all want to rush. Wherever it is, people rush when there's rain. Yes. Literally every weekend, this road that we speak of, or the thick superhighway, there is always some sort of a jam.
Correct.
Sunday afternoon going to evening, if you're coming back to Nairobi, even Sunday, Saturdays, there's always a jam on this particular road that we are speaking of. Now, let me ask the question I want to ask. How do we as human beings learn? Because this behavior we are speaking of is learnt. How do we learn? What is it that makes us learn and understand? It's example mostly.
Yes, yes, they learn from each other, and I suppose there are different players who always have been accused of that, and I think that is quite clear that even because the IG once previously mentioned that there are only a few number of vehicles who are supposed to have vehicles cleared, presidential and all that, ambulances and the rest, but all other Kenyans are supposed to purely ensure that they follow the law at all times in terms of movement of along the road.
Terry, when you come across roundabouts, okay,
Yes.
or traffic lights, there is one particular one, Ngong Road, near Prestige Mall.
Yes.
What is happening there?
There are a group of individuals called Boda riders.
Yes.
Haki, they don't obey anything known to mankind in terms of laws. And even when they're police, they simply move as and how they see it is.
And
Yes.
and the police, who, as you've said, are your partners in this, are aware that these individuals behave in this manner.
But
it seems
they're
to be
there.
accepted that they will do
this
that.
is one of the things which the issue with Boda is one of the areas which is of concern, and not just a concern from safety point of view, but the number of areas, including security, amongst others. As a matter of fact, from our statistics, the number of fatalities due to Boda have been on the rise right from maybe less than 5% about 10-15 years back, and now they contribute about 35%. It's a big source of concern. You may say the number of Bodas have increased, but even that is not enough to warrant the fact that it's not. I mean, you don't need the fact that the numbers are going up, then the fatalities need to go up. No, it doesn't mean that way, and that's why we need to work together. This is an area which we've had discussion even with the National Police Service and other agencies, and including the county governments, because that's much of where it's at times regulated. Is the enforcement of the law as relates to Boda is something which is a bit low. The number of factors around the same, but we've had some other counties, for example, Mombasa County, have had fair level of success in terms of border control and border management in their traffic systems. But that is something which, as I said, I think we need to ask the National Police Service yourself. Probably you should have invited them here. The question around enforcement of border is cities you've mentioned. I may not have the correct answer, but that's one of the things we've discussed, that they need to enforce the law because they are the enforcers of the law. And that's one of the areas whereby we are also encouraging the county governments to work with their, they call them inspectorates, the county askaris, as they say, so that they enforce the law, because that is where we need to put up. But nonetheless, one of the other things is that you'll find that majority of these people who are riding these borders may not have gone through driving school and riding schools. And this is one of the areas we've been working with a number of TVET institutions and driving schools and others to have mass training of some of these particular individuals so that they appreciate the danger they are on themselves and other road users as they misbehave in the road systems.
In terms of even letting them on the roads in the first place, because it would appear as though if you're on a motorcycle, all you have to do is gas brake, and you can go do whatever you want. And so that means that anybody who can, press on the gas and the brake can become a border operator, and then we let them on the roads. That taken, I want to come back to the issue of behavior. If you have a 4x4 vehicle and some kind of flag on it, or even if you don't, but you have some kind of siren.
And if that vehicle is black.
And if the vehicle is black, or in some cases silver, and you happen to have an office somewhere along Parliament Road,
or a walkie-talkie,
you will overlap. When there's traffic, whether you're going from Mombasa Road to Westlands, or whether you're going from Nairobi to Kimende, beyond that to Nakuru, you will overlap. And the people on the roads, be they NTSA or the police, will allow you to pass by virtue of the fact that you have a blinking siren or a blinking light, alarm or a siren. Do we expect that behavior, because somebody is of the Mheshimiwa status, will be allowed to pass, but then we want to enforce the same law on other people when they behave in the same manner? Not excusing the behavior, but saying that we've seen others do it, and the same NTSA and the same police will say the Mheshimiwa can pass, but then his Aseto in his car cannot.
Do you know what happens? You overlap, people follow you. And the jam that you spoke of, Daktari,
happens,
then occurs.
Right,
and then you have a serious gridlock.
Yes, on that particular aspect, of course, and I'll go back to the law, and the Traffic Act is quite clear on who does what in terms of the need to clear the road for a VIP and that kind of thing. And I think the law is quite clear. Some of the people who are and even the vehicles, including ambulances and the fire brigade and all that. Yes, so I think on matters VIP treatment, I'll probably leave that one to the police because I am not part of that. But we've noticed that, and I think there was an issuance of statement around that indeed it is wrong for people to use if you said that the vehicles which appear to be a VIP and misbehave, and in fact in the recent past there was a notice because people have also been putting strobes on their vehicles.
Yes.
Private vehicle like Dennis Aseto here with this and put strobes and behaves like a VIP. And at times even they collect themselves 3-4 vehicles and with strobes, and then they appear and then they go. And that kind of thing. And that's why the use of strobe is also regulated to a few number of vehicles, ambulances, and among others, which the law is. And that is the reason behind it. But and largely speaking, I would say, I'm not defending, but the general tendency in Kenya in misbehaving on the road is something which is of concern. And this is why we are here to tell that in as much as you want to be ahead, I think the danger of you rushing, even off the road, is quite high because and the dangers. In fact, if you check some of the numbers we have around pedestrians, whereby people have been knocked when they are by the north side, whether they're school-going children, whether their mothers selling their wares by the roadside, and that kind of thing is quite high because of some of those behaviors of some of the vehicles, including private vehicles, as you've mentioned, including government vehicles, and I think that's why there's a whole unit in government called Government Check Unit, which deals with government vehicles, and I think this is where we need all of us to behave quite well on the road. I think that's my comment on that.
We're talking with Dr. Duncan Kibogong, who is with NTSA, and we're looking at road safety. And we've been looking at road safety and, what is in the plan moving. And Dennis coming in just a minute. But over the period, Christmas, the festive season, we saw some terrible accidents happening. Many lives lost, unfortunately, whether it was overspeeding, whether it was negligence of drivers, whatever the case may be. And I'd like us to touch on that a little bit and see what the status report is, but we'll do that in just a bit.
And even as we talk about the Christmas period, there is a feeling out there that NTSA tends to only come out on the roads during the festive seasons, as opposed to being on the road throughout the year, throughout the entire time, in making sure that these road rules traffic rules are actually respected. So why is that the case? Why is it that NTSA only comes out? Like now we expect them to come out during Easter.
Yes, let me put it this way, that law enforcement agency in Kenya remains the National Police Service, and that is the agency who enforces laws, even the Traffic Act and related laws across board. And that's why we have the whole traffic department, which is having stationed across the country. And they're the particular people or the particular agency mandated by law and constitution to enforce the law. NTSA, we come to complement on some of the areas which touches on the vehicle, to ensure that we have safety on those particular roads. And here we are talking about issues with like motor vehicle inspection to ensure that the vehicles which are on the road are inspected. And that's why we do the inspections and work with the National Police Service using the IT technologies and all that kind of thing to ensure that what the vehicles they're seeing out there they are able to check whether they have been inspected or not. Other areas which we come in, of course, quite big, and this is why we are here as most of some of these studios, is the road safety education and campaigns, and that's why that is what the law mandates us to do. Talking to the members of the public, talking to the different road users of how they need to enforce the law. As I said before, we work, and this is one of the things even is envisaged in the National Road Safety Action Plan, is that we'll be working with the National Police throughout. And this is part of the plan, whereby we'll be on the roads for purposes of ensuring that in as much as we enforce the law, the people out there should also get sensitized or get educated on the importance of, say, for example, putting on a safety belt for the motorcycle, why you need to have a helmet and reflector jackets, amongst others. Then the other thing which you also do, of course, is that is the aspect to do with education of the children. And one of the things which is coming quite handy under this CBC program of education system is that we've mainstream road safety into the curriculum, and you'll be seeing a lot of that training of the younger generation moving forward, right from grade 1 to grade 8, grade 9, and moving forward even to the tertiary institutions, to ensure that road safety becomes an integral part of what they learn as they grow, as they do the education systems. So those are some of the things we're talking about. And back to what you said is that you're right that in some cases we probably have to come out, especially and I think this is what you're talking about, that with the limited resources we have, we cannot afford to be there throughout, but we always target on the areas where most crashes happen. Number 2, we target the particular behaviors which have been known to traditionally increase road traffic crashes, and those are some of the things we call them risk factors: speeding, drink driving, fatigue, overloading, among others, probably about 10, which we're dealing with. And then the other thing is that we also work towards improving the use of technology to improve road safety. So those are some of the areas, and you'll be seeing us quite often on the road. And this December, the numbers, as you've said, that we were quite on the high side. Yeah. Rather, we've seen some number of crashes. It's unfortunate, and we pass our condolences for those who have lost their loved ones due to road traffic crashes. But nevertheless, all of us have a responsibility to ensure that we are safe on the roads at all times. Yes.
Kibogong, I just want to still, you've talked about matters to do with roadworthiness and inspections that you undertake.
Yes.
Yet in this city, as we speak today, there are those vehicles that only operate at night from 8 p.m. Because they are not roadworthy. Yes. Yet you will still find this vehicle with an insurance. That means it went through a certain inspection and was given an insurance to operate. Why is that the case? If at all, NTSA is there to make sure that all the vehicles on the road should be roadworthy.
Yes, on that, yes, we've noted, and this is one of the things we want to extend even the times of enforcement of the law into the night. One of the things you've rightly put that in some of the areas we have the so-called usiku circles, and usiku circles are these vehicles who are operating in the usiku, and that is at night, as you put it, moving from, why that is happening. Why is it that it's happening at night? Is because they know that the level of enforcement at that time is fairly low, and that's why they emerge nocturnally and they operate. Now, this is one of the areas we've said that we've asked the National Police Service to improve on that part, because enforcement, if when your vehicle is unroadworthy, then you can as well keep it with you in your house. So long as it's not moving, you will not have a problem with it. We only have a problem when you put people in there and come out on a public road. That's where now the law is supposed to catch up with you. And that's what you're saying. The enforcement of the law should go into some of those circles. And they are basically, it's criminal for them, because what they are doing is that they are flouting the laws and they are running away from the law. But the law will catch up with them, and this is we've had a big discussion on this, and we've actually noted some of those areas where some of those vehicles. But on another note is that most of those vehicles, I can assure you that they do not have the certificate, or they don't have the inspection certificate of NTSA to say that they're roadworthy. Even them, that's why they're not coming on the road. But on the matters of insurance is something, in fact, one of the things you'd want to work towards having the law that you cannot insure a vehicle, especially a PSV vehicle, if you do not have tied up with motor vehicle inspection. Currently, that is not the case. You can insure your vehicle without having to have it, and especially a private vehicle. Your vehicle, you can always. And this is one of the things we are working towards, because we are also saying that in as much as we are inspecting PSV vehicles and heavy commercial vehicles, we've also noted private vehicles, these small vehicles of ours we carry, they don't have, they are not roadworthy. And this is one of the things, and actually the law requires all vehicles in the Republic of Kenya to be inspected by the motor vehicle inspector and issued a license. And this is one of the areas which we would want to have it just like a good practice to ensure that all the vehicles are roadworthy on the road. So that is exactly what you're saying, Dennis. And we want to have considered even ourselves. The beauty about our systems currently is that you can check on the roadworthiness of a vehicle by just having to type with your phone. There's an app, and I think at the end, if you got NTSA app, you just, even a driver, even an individual, you can get to know whether they have a driving license or not. You just have to put your license, the plate number, and tells you this vehicle does not have. And this is one of the things we'd want to encourage Kenyans to help you, because we are not everywhere. So you don't need to get into a vehicle which doesn't have insurance, or a vehicle for that matter which is unroadworthy, and God forbid you get into crash and you get injured, then everyone runs away from you. The insurance will not be there, the owner of the vehicle will not be there. So those are the dynamics. Yes.
You said you coordinate several government departments.
Yes.
Which are these departments?
There are different areas you're talking about. For example, on matters talking to do with the infrastructure, the roads. Here you're talking about the road agencies. And one of the things we do around the same is that we do what you call black spot, you do what you call road assessment. And
road agencies here you're talking about Kenha, Kera.
Okay. Yes. In that case then, we advise them, not advise that in case we find a road which is having is a black spot on some particular section of road, then the recommendations are done that we need to have this road. For example, I'll get you an example. Salga, for a very long time, that stretch was a high-risk road. It still is, but you reckon that in the recent past, because of the median separation, there have been a slight reduction. What happened there is what you call black spot treatment, or a SADA spot treatment. So those are some of the recommendations we do, and then they need to invest on improvement of that particular infrastructure, among as many others which we still working on with them. That is on the road, the infrastructure. On matters to do with, say for example, education, this is where we were working with, for example, I told you, working with the Ministry of Education to improve on the safety of the children. That's why we some of the statements we released in the recent past that you need to have vehicle travel number of hours for students and all that kind of thing. Working with Kenya's KICD. KICD is that's what I talked earlier, introduction or rather mainstreaming of road safety to the curriculum. Working with the National Police Service, and this is where we provide technology to ensure that the enforcement moves from the traditional one to more of automated.
See, the efforts that you make, I understand, and they're commendable.
Yes.
But the problem we're dealing with is actually beyond NTSA.
And that's why we are saying road safety is not an NTSA affair.
It is made to seem so because...
Actually, that is a misconception. NTSA is supposed to coordinate. We cannot be everywhere. If you check that there's a vehicle in virtually every village in this Republic of Kenya, and there's a border, probably 3, 4, probably even 10 in every village. And NTSA, we cannot be anywhere. And some of the laws actually do not allow us to do some of the things.
You see, everything that we're discussing here are outcomes.
Yes.
You have a traffic jam, it's an outcome. You have somebody who decides that they want to overtake. We are referring with a national disease called impunity, where it is learned behavior and it is clear we keep cascading it downwards, so that everyone in their own little pocket looks for an opportunity to do something which they know very well they shouldn't do, but they do because there's the understanding that they can actually get away with it.
Yes.
Now that is again beyond NTSA. Now, if we look at the partnership we have with KICD, that for me seems to be something that could provide the solution we're looking for.
Yes.
Because if you inculcate certain understanding in young people at a very early age, they grow up, they understand it. It becomes part and parcel of how they go about doing things.
Correct, yes.
So talk a little bit about it. What is it that you're doing with NTS, and how is it that you're ensuring that our learners at every level, even going to tertiary education, you're talking about university, at every level, that these are things that people are constantly Well, let me make it simply. Part and parcel of the curriculum of learning. So it's not something
absolutely.
that...
And now that city, you're getting me. I think you should be sitting on this part of the divide. But that notwithstanding, yes, you're right that matters. If you want us to change these things sustainably, then we need to inculcate some of these behaviors into the younger generation. In fact, there's a research done that much of these behavioral things at times, you are better off handling so that the newer generation coming is better than the older generation.
Sure.
Yeah. So as we move into, you are exiting, then the people who are coming will be better policy makers, better decision makers, better in terms of how they operate on the road systems and all that kind of thing. And based on that, this is one of the most critical things we're doing as a republic. I'll still not use the word NTSA because this is something all of us have to appreciate. So we said, is it possible that some of these things go into the curriculum? We discussed the Ministry of Education and other stakeholders, even the private sector. He said, yes, this is quite an important subject, which is cross-cutting, and it needs to go into the curriculum. So as you speak now, road safety is incorporated in the curriculum.
Okay.
But the fact that in curriculum is not enough. It needs to go into it being taught and possibly even examined, and even better still monitoring and evaluation to ensure that
it's in the curriculum that's being delivered to students in school between what age and what age?
It is it's from grade 1 to grade 9. The thing which we are currently working on, which is the smallest thing which we need to come into, is what you call curriculum support materials.
Sorry, I have to ask, under what subject is this? Because it is not just road safety on its own. Which subject is it under?
Exactly, that's what you're saying. If you ask the curriculum development people, is that safety can go in, it is in majority of it. Can be in science, it can be in maths, it can be in social sciences.
Okay,
how that is done, let me just explain. For example, in social science, for example, or even music for that matter, it can come in form of a poem or a music, and that kind of thing. In maths, there's a way you can put it such that they have things called strand, so that in say that, for example, maths, that is it when you're talking about speed, you know, those velocity things, that speed is equal to distance divided by time. Then from that now, there's a discussion that after you find the speed of a vehicle moving at 50 kilometers per hour, another 100 kilometers per hour, part and parcel of the discussion is that in case of a crash, which is likely to cause more injury. So it is integrated into current. So there are different ways of doing it, and it's different. For the lower classes or the lower grades, then it's different. As you move higher, then it becomes more. But it is something which is all woven into.
So it's woven into subject matter.
Yes.
But we're not looking at, under social studies, for example, you have a unit of road safety kind of thing.
It is woven into it, and that is the current DCBC system, because it's not, you don't want to bring, because we don't want to bring
a unit
separate
like in university.
or a separate, no.
Right.
So it's woven into the system such that when you are discussing something, for example, touching on science, for example, energy for some classes. So you talk about energy is then you say in case energy is equal to mass times velocity or something like that. And then from the long run, then something around in case a vehicle crashes, which is likely, or do you know that speed now, that kind of thing.
May I say something?
Yes.
A problem such as this one that we keep speaking about, this impunity.
Yes.
And how you get rid of it, and the learning process. I want to give the example of something called the Holocaust that occurred in Germany. It is mandatory learning in German schools. It may differ from, say, state to state, but it's mandatory and it's examinable. They look at tolerance. They look at diversity, anti-Semitism. The things that brought about this huge, massive problem is examined in detail. Examined at the various levels, meaning it's an exam that you sit. You cannot say you have not been taught or you can learn. If we are to change and kill this culture of impunity, we have to be extremely deliberate
about it.
Yes.
It can't be iffy that we are suggesting perhaps, no, we must.
Yeah.
Outside this gate of ours here,
Yes.
there used to be a place buses could park. It doesn't exist.
Oh, thank you. Because this was going to be my example. If you would just please allow me to hijack your question.
Yes,
I will also hijack it as well.
Because that is the example that I wanted to give. And I wrote it down here where you're talking about the road agencies.
Yes.
Mombasa Road is a perennial thorn in the flesh of anybody who operates a vehicle, anybody who walks on the road, anybody who rides a bicycle, pushes a cart, rides a boda, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
The road furniture, road infrastructure on Mombasa Road is highly wanting.
Yeah.
The road inbound to the city was just worked on. Whatever it is that they did, if it was supposed to be recarpeting, I don't know. But something was done to the road that caused traffic in December. And I'm sure you were aware.
It was horrific.
It was horrific traffic in December. And what has been done on that road, I mean, I'm not a civil engineer, but I would expect that it would have been a bit better. Then we would have also expected that the road furniture would include road marking. The road is still unmarked and it is bumpy. It is unlit. So if anything were to happen, it would happen because, number one, the road is unlit. Number two, infrastructure does not exist. Number three, the carpeting of the road was a shoddy job done. So the question is, where does NTSA come in here with the road, what did you call them?
Road agencies.
Road agencies who are supposed to ensure that those things happen. It's a highway, so here we're dealing with Kenha. What happens there when it doesn't exist and then people get into an accident? It is not of their own folly. It is not drunk driving. It is unmarked road and an unsmooth road, no infrastructure. What happens there? What should right now? Is there somebody you talk to tell them to fix Mombasa Road?
And I think let me just tie it together with that, and the fact that this country invested heavily on setting up. Talk about speed cameras, talk about having traffic lights and all this. But yet you find where there is a traffic light, there is a police officer. Why?
Yes, to start with what you mentioned about is that, yes, that indeed there was some time around December whereby there's some, I think they were filling up some of the on the opposite side, the town bound, the city bound type of the road, and there was some bit of a problem there, and we reckon actually I got stuck and I did have to ask my colleagues in Kenya what was happening, because I think they were fixing some rough patch of the road on the other side of the road, and that took some bit of time, and I think one of the things which Kenya have been doing quite a lot and is announcing when they are dealing with the road, and at times you see some putting notices. The question was, and I think I had asked them whether there was a notice so that people do not clock that particular road, or they know at least that if you go there you'll be stuck for this period of time. But nevertheless, one of the things which came about in that particular discussion is that they have not finalized on those particular, after they've done the expressway, then there was a lot of works which was supposed to be done on the lower type of the road, and this is one of what they've told, they've said themselves. And one of the things which you also expressed, that you mentioned, is the vulnerable road users. Those are the pedestrians, and that they need to put pedestrian walkways, especially on either side of the road, so that people do not compete for the carriageway with vehicles, because that is not how it's supposed to be.
Borders have overtaken the walkway out here.
Yes, and that now comes to the enforcement aspect, because, and this is the whole aspect around the area, so we need to enforce. So in fact, and the other thing is that all stretch, because we also want the walkway whereby you don't go until somewhere it comes to a complete end. It needs to be, continuous, just like the one for
Kenya should actually change what they do and join the Kenya
what?
Literature Bureau, because they're going to tell us.
Truly.
From the time we put up the expressway until now, everything about it is a story. It's one story after another. It's been budgeted for. It's going to be done. And yet, the very dangers that we are speaking of, you see, why I said this thing is beyond you, it is actually beyond NTSA. Completely beyond NTSA.
So what I would suggest is, I think this is some of the conversation. I don't know whether you've been able to get Kenya to sit on this and ask.
We've invited.
We've invited.
Because those are some of the things. But from where we've done, we have our whole department dealing with what you call safety audits, and have an engineer who has done some of those audits on some of those roads, and subsequently the recommendations therein were provided to the respective road agencies, and we expect them, as you've said that they've budgeted for, of course with the budget constraint in government, but that notwithstanding, I think that is something which the respective road agency dealing with this should be able to. Yeah.
Will you be able to handle Dennis' question really in seconds about
those traffic cameras even?
That is exactly the reason why we need to work towards automation of some of these traffic offences and traffic management. One of the things which we need to move is where traffic police officers should not be on the road, at least not for purposes of some of the things which technology can take it up.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. And this one of the things, if you had the CS, the previous CS saying that we cannot afford to have police virtually anywhere, everywhere. Technology has come currently. Things to do with speed should be managed. Traffic management, traffic flow, and all that kind of thing. And I see you mentioned in the morning about what is happening across the country.
Yeah.
This is something which technology is doing. I'm seeing it right here. Technology is doing, and you don't. And this is where we are progressively going. Yes.
Dr. Duncan Kibogong is the Deputy Director of Road Safety Programs with NTSA. Thank you for being here this morning.
Karibu.
We keep saying conversations that need to happen, and truly, they need to keep happening.
This is one of it, and we are ready to be every day, every time.
Thank you so much for being here this morning. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.